So I want to start this video talking about invocations. You will be asked to give these at different points of time during the year. I want you to think of an invocation as giving a prayer maybe at dinner with your family if you're used to doing that. And it's basically like giving a prayer because I want to say it that way because you can also think of invocations as being non-denominational. So you might not use all of the exact words that you might use with your family at dinner, but it would be a good way to start if you're used to doing that with your family. So some things to think about. I usually, when we're all together, ask the contestants to write 3 different invocations. And so here they are for meals, business meetings, and general gatherings. Those are usually the different places that you might be where someone might ask you to give an invocation. And one really important thing to remember is that you might be at an event and someone might just real quick ask you to give an invocation. So you should always be prepared with one of these 3. I might even suggest that you use 3 different note cards and write them down. Some people are more confident giving them just with something being memorized, and other people might need to read something. Just make sure you keep it short. Again, I would practice it. It is better if you get to a point where maybe you can memorize it. But if you keep a copy with you, keep in mind that usually you start invocations by asking people to close their eyes and bow their heads so no one's looking at you. So that might make you feel a little more confident as you start out to keep that in mind. So, possible sentence starters, keeping in mind again that some of you might have your own way that you would want to start. I'm just going to give you some options here. And again, it just kind of depends on what type of event that you are at and also what your faith is. So you don't have to start with any of these. I usually tend to start with, will you bow your head, or dear Heavenly Father. But again, lots of different options. So you want a good beginning, and you might want to try to keep the beginning basically the same for all 3 different types of invocations you might give. And maybe the middle is where you really start to change things. So again, these are just possible sentence starters. You are more than welcome to use whatever you are dealing with, keeping in mind that we are dealing with agriculture. So it's a great time to make sure you're thanking the farmers or the people who prepared the food, making sure that you talk about the food that nourishes our body. But again, you might be at a meeting. So you might want to add in, where I have the 3rd bullet down, help us prepare for the challenges which we may face in this season, or maybe it's a meeting that you would like to put in there. So just keep the middle part, you want to keep in mind the event that you are at and make it fit whatever event that you are at. And again, you might not be having food, so always having something about the meal might not be the best thing because maybe you're just giving a general blessing over a meeting as it begins. Again, that's not very often. Usually you give an invocation to start a meal, but you never know that the circumstance you might be in. And then again, I would always find a way that you like to end your invocation. So I would keep the beginning and I would keep the end pretty much the same no matter the event that you're at, and change the middle. But again, just possible. You might have other ways that you would like to end them. And so keep in mind that these are some options on how to end your invocations. And then there's just a couple examples. Again, if you're really stuck and you aren't sure how to start something, there are lots of invocations out there that you would be able to Google or look up, or maybe you have someone in your family that you could ask to help you write them. So I have an example of an invocation giving at a meal. Again, really talking about, being thankful for the people that are there and the fellowship, and definitely the food, the people who prepare it is usually a good way to go for the meal. And then again, you might just be asked to do something for a business meeting. And again, giving blessing for the opportunities, maybe the challenges. If you know exactly what the meeting's about, maybe you can ask for a blessing over exactly what it is. But again, being able to perform the duties that you would have at that meeting. My next example is actually one that I gave at the 2000 Maryland Agriculture Dinner. My grandfather was a Lutheran bishop, and so I did have him help me write this. And it's just important, again, to just kind of remember that, I mean, in the nicest way possible, if you're giving this at like a time before people are ready to eat, they want to eat. So again, keeping it short and concise, making sure you get the information in there, thanking and blessing whatever is going on is really great. But again, just make it come from you and have it be something that you can easily say and it feels normal to you. And again, then we have some general gatherings. And if you see, this one doesn't talk about food at all. There wasn't food involved in this one. So again, having 3 different ones is really great to have. And again, keep it short so you don't have to panic. It's not a long speech, just something short and quick that you'd be able to give at any type of setting. So again, make sure you have 3 of them. I would do one for meal, one for business meetings, and one for just general gatherings. I would make sure you practice your invocations. But again, like I said before, have a note card. Until you really feel confident, no one's going to judge you for reading your invocation if you need to start. Not everybody is used to doing this at home, and so it might feel a little uncomfortable at first, but the more you give, I promise the easier they get. Once you practice them enough, you're going to be great at it. So I would take some time, maybe get 3 different color note cards, and I would just write out 3 different invocations and just kind of keep them with you, maybe in the glove box of your car, or your parents' car, or maybe even put them in a couple different cars to make sure you're always prepared. I'm sure you're going to do a great job.